Hello, love. Whew. It's been a minute for this podcast. Let me just double check something. I usually double check on here, but I wanted a full screen, so I didn't want to be divided. There it goes. All right. So, anyways, welcome to Beautifully Imbalanced. It's been a minute, as I said. So those of you who are returning viewers and those of you who are new here, I'm gonna give you a brief little hey, this is what this podcast is about. But before we dive into that, make sure that you like, subscribe, and that little bell so you'll be notified every time we post a video here on the Car Love Network. It's Deshae Carter, and Beautifully Imbalanced is all about um, how will we say this? I started this to talk about my trauma and how I've healed and different coping skills and boundaries and ways to grieve and things of that nature. So there is a variety of um, videos that you can watch through the Beautifully Imbalanced podcast once you click that playlist or podcast. So that's what this is all about. And it's hard to keep up with this. It's challenging. And I've allowed the challenge to overtake me, and I've decided to know more. So here we are. Today's episode, we are talking about. Sorry, damn. I'm not used to having the major screen. We are talking about why self worth needs repetition. And I'm very, this is a topic that I'm living through, and I love. So let's start with the journey of knowing your worth. Um, for there to be repetition, there needs to be some sort of framework of knowing your worth. And from what I've discovered, society has taught me what I was worth. That's where I started, right? I think that's where a lot of us start. I think that our sense of worth is shaped by our environment. Um, so I think it really starts with our parents and their treatment of us. And then it goes from there. If you have watched some of the videos before, you know that through my trauma, I felt neglected and abandoned. So I didn't really have a strong sense of worth. I simply felt like I was here to serve other people and to people please. Um, and but then you grow up, right? And you start hearing music and seeing shows and stuff like that. And you see different people struggling with their worth and different people knowing their worth. And you want to have those feelings. So you start to adopt some of those characteristics and things like that. Then you have, if you belong to religion, you have religion telling you what your worth is, how a woman should be treated, how a man should be treated, how they should carry themselves, all the things, right? So it takes a lot to really comb through all of that and figure out what you want, how worthy you feel. What does worthiness mean to you? And it sounds like a lot of work, and to some degree, it is. Um, but once you get it, and I think that we're always adding to our sense of worth. I think that there's levels, right? But once you get to the foundation, it's an amazing feeling. So why can't we keep it? Why can't we be consistent with that? Why does self-worth need repetition? Um, and what I feel like with my journey is comfort, right? Environment. Um, when you're used tolerance, right? When you're used to being treated a certain way, when you're used to moving a certain way, you learn to adapt and thrive, right? Or you become a victim. You have options, but a lot of times we learn to adapt. Humans tend to be pretty adaptable. Um, and I feel like for me, I learned to adapt. I learned to tolerate. I have a high tolerance, right? And so because we have a high tolerance. Sometimes we feel like we have to endure that. And I really think that's just an emotional thing, because the reality is if we know we have a high tolerance to pain, we're not going to push that. You know what I mean? We're not going to go out and allow ourselves to get beat on, right? Um we're not going to go like put ourselves in harm's way because we have a high tolerance, right? So why do we do it emotionally? Because we do it emotionally a lot. So that's one of the like little eye-opening things for me. I think that one of the reasons why worth needs repetition um, is because sometimes we've gotten so used to those environments that shaped us, those environments that we've outgrown. We've gotten used to those things telling us what our worth was or is, and we've adopted with those things, places, environment, people are telling us our worth is. And so sometimes that voice is still there. Y'all know me, y'all know how I quiet those outside voices. I make my voice louder. I utilize affirmations. And affirmations are good reminders for those moments where you need that repetition. Um, so that's your journey, right? There's a journey to get to knowing your worth, to building that foundation. And then it's why are we needing it, right? And sorry, I have notes here and I can't read my handwriting because they weren't really here for that. But since I was trying to do like okay, what have we covered here? I was trying to do one of those things. I'm not that's not really not my strong suit. But yes. So I've learned that for me, um, abandonment issues have sometimes made it hard for me to advocate for myself and for me to not accept being tolerated less than what I'm worth. And I realized what I've learned. It took me learning it this way, right? I'm abandoning myself for someone who doesn't care enough to treat me as my worth. And when I put it that way, it made it a little bit easier. So there's certain things, certain realizations that I feel will make it a little bit easier for you to um, not need as much repetition when it comes to knowing your worth, but repetition is still necessary. So when it comes to self abandoning, um, realizing, recognizing what are the things you do to self abandon? Why are you self abandoning? Why do you feel like this person is worth being put above yourself? Because who is worth being put above you? So I feel like though that's something that really helps me. Because like I said, I have a high tolerance for a lot. Because I survived a lot. In surviving a lot of things, we have to sit for a while in the mess. Um, And so that tolerance gets built up, that resilience gets built up. And so you feel like because you could take it, you should, and that's not true. So for me, like I said, I had to acknowledge what me tolerating, how that was negatively affecting me. Um, and I think that it meant more to me once I fell in love with myself because it's like, okay, well, you're abandoning yourself. And now it's like, oh shit, no, I'm not gonna do that. But before, when it was like, you're abandoning yourself, it was like, well, everyone's abandoning me. I'm not worth being, someone being present with me. You know what I mean? It was easy to write that off. Um, I think environment, I think that sometimes we heal, but we don't check our environment. So it's like that rose who grew from concrete, right? But I feel like once we grow, we have to shift our environment so that we can continue to grow. It's like those plants that need fertilizer so they can grow stronger. They're already growing, but they can grow so much more. You know what I mean? So I feel like for me, we don't realize we have to shift our environment, especially to connect with the goals. There's additional goals we want to reach, right? So if there's additional goals we want to reach, then we need to shift our environment so we can reach them, right? We have to prepare for the things we're asking for. You can't receive anything if your hand is closed off, right? Your hand needs to be open and ready to receive. So if we have all this stuff cluttering the ground, what's going to grow from that? You know what I mean? So shifting that environment is important. Getting out of your comfort zone, embracing the challenges, right? I feel like for me, this specific podcast, Beautifully Imbalanced, because it is so personal and so vulnerable, um, sharing with you all helps me. It makes me stronger. And I hope to God that you can take something away from every video and apply it to your life, or apply it to someone else's life by sending it to them and they gain something from it, right? But it has been incredibly healing for me. But it's also it encourages me to face a level of vulnerability that I haven't touched yet, right? And so I run from it because it's not comfortable. But in doing that, um, it also shifts my sense of worth. You know what I mean? So staying in a comfortable space, staying in around people who make you comfortable because that's what you're used to or that's what you grew up around, it makes it hard for you to stand firmly in your worth. And we want to stand firm in our worth. We want to um, live in that state. And so that's another reason why worth needs to be needs repetition. Um, I would love for us to get to a space where it doesn't necessarily need repetition. And I kind of think that from the interviews that I've watched recently, I kind of think that comes with age. Like, yes, I feel very healed and very grounded, and I'm still healing and growing. And with every storm that comes away, I'm still going, right? I feel that 100%. But what I keep seeing in interviews, I just recently watched Kiki Palmer's interview with Oprah. I watched her interview with Whoopi Goldberg. And it just seems like the older you get, the less fucks you give, you know? And so it's like you can still be very grounded in your sense of self-worth, but something can still shift that. Um, and I don't think that it's always the past. I think that sometimes it's just like the day and age we live in. I think it's our age. Um, but I refuse to let that keep me. I refuse to let that keep me. The last thing I have as a reason to why self-worth needs repetition is knowing your self-worth versus experiencing it. Oh my god. So, I got to a point where I knew my worth. I stopped accepting bullshit from different men in the dating journey, different people trying to be friends, stuff like that, right? Got to a point, and because you'll see it's in the episode labeled Daddy Issues. There's a part one and a part two. That during that season, I had fell in love with myself. I knew my worth, but I was still accepting bullshit from the men that I was dating. The men, I don't know. I gotta go back and rewatch the episode. I was dating. I don't know if that was a season where I went on multiple dates or if I was dating one specific person. I just remember the aha moment. Like, why are you tolerating this treatment, right? Um, why are you and more importantly, why are you attracting these men who will treat you like this? I'm sorry, I'm distracted because the lighting is not as great right now. Um, I was going for like a moody vibe, and not it's not giving what I wanted to give. Anyways, y'all know how we do it here on Beautifully Balanced. Maybe you don't because it's been a minute. But on Beautifully Balanced is like I said, it's just the raw and the transparent and the vulnerable. So you're gonna get those little micro interruptions. Also, I've learned about myself when things get very vulnerable and transparent. I get distracted by the littlest thing because that's running. It's a running behavior. So, anyways, knowing your worth. So again, like I said, I accepted a lot and I was attracting a lot. I was attracting men that I had to chase. But not just dating wise, like business wise. I was attracting people that I had to chase, people who would breadcrumb me, people who would manipulate me. Those are all things I experienced in my relationship with my dad. So environment, comfortable, right? Um, but I knew my worth. I fell in love with myself. I knew who I was. I knew what I wanted, right? And so I was like pissed off at myself, like, girl, why are you why? And so I came to those realizations in that that episode. So go ahead and watch. I'm gonna have to go back and edit this video later on so I could be like, it's right here. It's right here. It's somewhere on the screen. It's gonna be somewhere on the screen. But go watch the Daddy's Issues episodes. I think I have a daddy. Well, I know I have a Daddy's Issues episode and I have a Mommy's Issue episode. I have the issues in there. Okay. Those are true to my issues with my parents. Yours might look slightly different, but it really affected my self-worth. And as I healed, I feel like I kind of healed around those things. And so I had to heal, I had to not go backwards, but I had to reflect. Look back real quick, reflect and look back forward and realize how what was happening back there is affecting what's happening right here. Um, and so I did that. And so then I got to a point where I knew my worth, but it was lonely, Leon. It's lonely. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it gets lonely when you know your worth, but you haven't met someone who has the capacity to treat you how worthy you are. Woo. You know, it's it's something. I'm sorry, the lighting is bothering me so much. I don't think that's better, but here we are. Anyways, um, so I settled for something that I didn't want, but it was with people who were more respectful, people who knew my worth, but didn't want the long term stuff, right? That got old fast. Not fast enough, but it did get old fast because, again, I'm not fully being treated as worthy as I am, right? And it got to a point where I got hopeless. Like, you know and so again I had to keep reminding myself of my worth because the way I was allowing myself to be treated, the environments that I was in, were telling me otherwise, right? um so knowing your worth versus experiencing it, I had the opportunity this summer, um to actually experience someone who actually treated me to my definition of worthiness, um and beyond. I realized today and beyond. Um, and I know what I want to say. I'm just slowing down because it's so vulnerable, and I don't even think I've expressed this to anyone else. But here we are. That's what Beautifully Imbalanced is all about. So let's get into it. So basically, like I said, I was treated as worthy as I believe myself to be, and then um, as time went on, I was communicating with my friend today and I was talking to her and I was like, you know what? I really think that this happened for a reason. I really feel like I was willing to tolerate less than because that's what I'm used to tolerating. And he said, no, we're going to wait until we can do this the right way. And I, again, was willing to tolerate the bare minimum because that's what I'm used to tolerating. That's what I'm used to thriving in. I can have fun with the bare minimum because I've had to have fun with the bare minimum. And meeting someone who doesn't want you to, you know what I mean? I appreciate you being willing to, but I don't want you to have to, right? Um, it's different. It feels great and it's different. So like I said, this is a realization I had earlier today. So I'm still kind of like, wow, this is what it's like to experience what you're worth and then some. Um, so, like I said, I connected with this individual, and the treatment, the level of respect, um, the level of communication, level of communication, reassurance, thoughtfulness that was not asked for, that um wasn't asked for. There was a certain level of honesty. It was unsolicited. I want to start using that word because usually unsolicited is used so negatively because I don't do unsolicited advice. I don't. But this was unsolicited, right? That means I didn't have to ask for it. I didn't have to beg for it. I didn't have to, hey, can you do this for me? I didn't have to say, this is how I want to be treated. The treatment was there, right? I didn't have to teach this individual to treat me however they treated me. And so my worth was um, apparent. And it felt, the other thing that felt amazing is this is someone that I attracted naturally. So I feel like things have shifted for me from attracting people who treated me less than to now attracting someone who treats me more than. Okay. Cause not even equal to, more than. Um, and it's an amazing feeling, but it's something that it takes time for that to happen, right? So knowing your worth versus experiencing it, we're not always going to experience our worth. There are people who don't even know their own worth. So how can they treat us how we're worthy of if they don't even treat themselves that way? They haven't been taught. They haven't experienced it. So they can't go out and reciprocate that, right? So this is to me one of the stronger, not that they're all pretty strong. This is one of the biggest reasons why I feel like um self-worth needs to be repetitious. No, I'm just kidding. That's why we need to be repetitious with our self-worth. Well, how can you be so repetitious with your self-worth? I don't know why that's tying me up. Well, how can you be repetitious with your self-worth? I'm glad you asked. I'm really glad you asked. You see those bills? Well, little things on it. There's so many like positive words and stuff. Let me see if I can. mm, Let me see if I can prop this up a little bit. I didn't want y'all to see my lights because y'all don't see all that. Anyway, so there's positive words up here. This was my year 30 um vision board. And because a lot of these things have been fulfilled, but I'm building on them now, I left it up. But there's powerful words. I picked powerful words that describe me, right? Deep Phoenix. Phoenix is, y'all seen Harry Potter. If you haven't, go watch it, okay? The Phoenix will burn and turn into ashes and rise right up out of that shit, right? That's a testament to my resilience, right? 4C hair, my hair's my crown, like learning love, being okay with learning love. All these things make up the way I view myself, the way I view my self worth, right? So constant reminders, visual reminders are a powerful thing. Um, so there are a lot of people I know who they frown upon affirmations. I'm an affirmation girly, so I left them. But affirmations are here. These are like some of my very first affirmations, so I don't even know what they all say. Um, but affirmations, visual, artwork, things like that, things that will remind you of who you are, right? And the value that you hold. Who are you though? Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like sometimes that's easy to forget. You don't even have to be this big official title that you think you have to be to know your worth. You don't have to be Beyonce to feel worthy, right? The last guest that came on the Carter Love Talk show, she said, if you really think about it, just going back to science, right? She said, there's a lot of swimmers that try to get to that egg, but you were the one who made it through. Even that, you know what I mean? We're worthy. We're all worthy. We're all worthy. And this wall, sometimes when I'm having a moment, I just kind of sit and I look, and the first word that finds me, the first word I see, leadership, transformation. Like I just look at that and I let that move me. I meditate on that word. You know what I mean? I look at my artwork because all my artwork is usually how. Ooh, that scared the shit out of me. It's my alarm. My artwork is you. It's an extension of yourself, right? my artwork tends to be myself. Um, the they're covered. This one is very old, before I knew anything about anything. But anyways, um, those work. That's the point that I'm trying to make, is that those are some of the ways that you can remind yourself of your self-worth, that you can be repetitive with your self-worth. The other thing, I said affirmations, but what I like to do is I like to record, I like to write out affirmations that are specific for me. Oh, excuse me, and the season that I'm in. And then I like to record them and listen to them while I look in the mirror. Very empowering. Poses, that power pose. It does something inside of you that really stirs up your worth, your power, your strength. Like, though these are little things you can do throughout the day, throughout the week, to really remember what your worth is. Um, and really instill that in you. That's, like I'm telling you, that's where the clothing brand came from. I I didn't have a wall like this. Um, but I had to wear clothing, right? I put affirmation across the front. You see it, you read it unconsciously. When this stuff is in front of you, you're unconsciously taking it in, right? Think about it like this. When I open my phone, I'm opening my phone with an intention to do something, but I immediately see all these notifications. So unconsciously, I'm already on those things. I might have replied to a text message, but I'm opening my phone to go into Instagram, but my mind has already looked at all this other stuff, right? When you look at the wall or the artwork or whatever helps you remember how worthy you are, you're unconsciously taking it in. And so, like I said, I didn't have a wall. I started with a shirt. When I go to the bathroom, I'm unconsciously reading it. When I do the laundry, I'm unconsciously reading it. When I'm folding it up, hanging it in the closet, when I'm taking a selfie, I'm unconsciously reading that I need to love my body every step of the journey, that I'm worthy always, right? That I built me, because I built me, right? Because the reality is, people will say, your mama built you. Yeah. Reality is, y'all go through trauma and stuff like that, and you have to build yourself up, or you're going to be stuck back there in the dark corner. You know what I'm saying? So, finding what works for you to remind yourself of how worthy you fucking are, and then consistently falling in love with yourself, because once you fall in love with yourself, it's just so hard for you to tolerate bullshit, because it's like, baby, how you gonna do that to me? You know what I'm saying? It gets hard for you to tolerate BS when the self-love is there. It gets really hard. The more you increase your self-love, the easier boundaries become. Because baby, I said no. I said I'm tired and I need to take care of me. I said I need to lay down. I said I need a massage. I said I'm not going over there with the people who have that negative energy. Yes, I can tolerate their energy, but do I need to? No. Do I want to put myself in a position to where I have to tolerate? No. You know what I'm saying? So we want to do what we need to do to increase our self-love, to increase our self-worth. And for me, it's reminders. For me, it's poses. Those poses, that power pose, that hands on your hips, your feet, shoulder width apart. You got the butt and you get the head up like this. It's empowering. Holding yourself. I do this. I'm worthy of being comforted. Yeah, I'm worthy of being nurtured, because I didn't feel worthy of those things, because I didn't get those from my parents. I didn't, right? So I give them to myself, right? I give them to myself. It has to come from you, and we are born in a space to where we are taught what our worth is, and we have to go out and find what we are worthy of, right? Listen, we're born worthy of it all, right? Worthy of all the things that we need and want. But our treatment from those closest to us will tell us otherwise sometimes. So we have to go and find the core of what we feel we are worthy of. And I feel like for me, loving on myself is what taught me that. But also thinking about how I want my children to feel. If my daughter is crying, she's worthy of comfort. She's not worthy of, stop crying. You don't need to feel that way. Right? So I'm not going to do that with myself. Right? My daughter is worthy of being treated respectfully. So I'm not going to allow disrespect to me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to disrespect myself. I'm not going to self-abandon myself. So it's like certain things will help you. You have to just find what works best for you. But like I said, for me, affirmations are powerful. Visual aids are powerful. Artwork is powerful. This is the lotus flower. It symbolizes rebirth. And just knowing that I'm worthy of rebirth, right? I've been through a couple of births, you know what I'm saying? Just because of trials that have happened, trauma that has occurred, things that happen, you know what I mean? Um, so just stuff like that. So you have to find what helps you remember your worth, but you do that as you get to know yourself. One of the things that I am going to do soon to solidify my sense of self worth, um, and to build it up, especially after I realized that I'm comfortable with the bare minimum, and I don't want to live there. I'm comfortable with the bare minimum. I'm comfortable with unnecessary sacrifice, um, in order to be in someone's presence, and I don't feel like that's a healthy habit to have. And so I am going to start actively dating myself, seriously dating myself. I had this thought the other day, and I said, some people date to marry, some people date for fun. Um, but when people get ready, they say, I'm seriously dating right now. So if you're not ready for that commitment, then you can leave me alone, right? Um, sorry, I just had a thought. I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget. I just had a thought because I do like how laid back I am on this podcast, but I'm realizing that a person could look on this live and be like, that lighting is shitty. I'm not watching that. I can't watch that. Anyways, but seriously dating yourself. I'm going to start because I've talked about dating myself. You can go on my Instagram and stuff like that. I took myself on a date or two, maybe once a year. No, I'm going to start actively, seriously dating myself. Because when I date myself, one, um, I'm learning how I want to be treated. I'm also teaching other people how to treat me. I'm also getting to know the layers of me that I had walls up, right? When you put walls up for other people, you're also putting walls up for yourself. So you can't get to those parts of you. So now that I'm peeling back those layers and I'm getting closer to the core of me, I want to enhance that, right? I also want to be very grounded in myself because I don't want to lose myself in a relationship like I've done before. So I want to be grounded in myself. I want to love on myself. I want to be able to hear my intuition more clearly. I want to hold on to my self worth because I used to let it go real easily. And I'm telling you, the more your self love increases, the harder it is to let it go. But sometimes self love needs repetition. Sometimes you need more self care to enhance your self love. Sometimes you're not overflowing. Sometimes your cup is like this. This ain't even half full. I don't think. Well, it might be if I would stop tilting it, it might be half full. But either way it goes, I want my cup to overflow. I want it to constantly overflow like a fucking waterfall. That's what I want. And for me to get that, I need to date myself. Even when I'm dating someone, even when I'm in a relationship, even when I get married again, because it's happening. Even when that happens, I still need to be dating myself. I still need to overflow, especially because I know that this is my gift. This is where I need to be. I know my purpose. So that means I'm always going to be pouring into other people, but I also need to make sure I can still pour into my man and my children, right? And so I need overflow. And for me to get that overflow, I think it's going to come. I know it's going to come from dating myself. I just discovered that I've been in therapy for 5 years. I think in June it was 5 years. It's been 5 years. I've been actively healing. I have been actively, repeatedly reminding myself of my self worth, repeatedly falling in love with myself each time, each time, each time. But I want to solidify that. I want my foundation to be stronger than what it is because I can't really even build my children up the way I want to, but I also can't build with a man. I can't build the family I want if my foundation is not strong enough, right? So I want to increase that because yes, my kids should see the growth in the here and there and this and that. But I think ultimately I would like for them to see me standing and grounded in my self worth and in my self love. I want that to be the thing that they remember, that to be the thing that they mirror and find their own sense of self worth and self love, right? I don't want them to have to jump through all the hoops. I had to work my ass off to fall in love with myself because I did not think I was worthy of love. I didn't think I was worthy of love. I didn't think I was worthy of attention. I didn't think I was worthy of care. I didn't think I was worthy of thoughtfulness, of reassurance. I didn't think I was worthy of any of that. And so I craved it. And so anytime I got even a slither, I was on it, right? And I was taught to accept manipulation. I was taught to uh, um chase. But like I said, the more I fell in love with myself, the more I was like, girl, this don't feel right. It's not feeling right to me. And I feel like you just keep making excuses. Aren't you tired of making excuses for this person? Aren't you tired of justifying this person's actions? Aren't you tired of feeling like shit? Like, I used to get, it was hard for me because I was understanding. I'm incredibly understanding, right? To a fault sometimes, if I allow it to be a fault, right? Um, and But I'm like, you understand them, but you still feel like shit, which means you're not being treated correctly. And I had to learn those lessons. And I'm grateful that I learned them because now I get to teach them to you and hopefully you don't have to go through it as much as I had to, or you don't have to go through it at all. But anyways, you asked me why is it important to why is self-worth. Oh my God. Why is it necessary? That was going to be like, y'all, that was going to be a smooth little close out. And I just fucked it up. Anyways, you asked me, let's start all over. You asked me why self worth needs repetition. And I gave you an answer. I'm just kidding. So, self worth needs repetition because we're often when we're in that survival mode, when we are going through it, when we have overcome so much, we have learned to tolerate a lot. And sometimes because we are on the other side, we're like, oh, that's minor. Compared to what I've been through, that's minor. Baby, it don't matter if it's minor. If it's against your worth, your self worth, if it's disrespecting you, if you have to self abandon, baby, got to go. But because we're like I said, we're used to that. We have tolerance. We have high tolerance for bullshit. We are comfortable. The environment that we're in that we didn't shift. That's why we need repetition. The journey to finding our self worth. That's why we need repetition. Because sometimes we're like, "Am I worthy?" Unlearning, right? Because if you're taught years and years and years, you're not worthy, 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 you're not worthy. It's not gonna take a day for you to say, yeah, you know what, I am worthy. You're not gonna commit to that in a day. If it took you 10 years to learn that you aren't worthy, to be told, to be taught, to be for it to be forced in you that you are not worthy, it's not gonna it's not gonna change overnight. You're not, you know what I mean? Unlearning is real and unlearning is a journey. Okay. So I'm hoping that you give yourself grace during this journey. But like I said, the other thing was knowing your worth versus you experiencing it. Because if you know your worth and and you're the only one treating you worthy, my God, because that's the thing. You're the only one treating you worthy. And you start to think like, damn, maybe it's all in my head. Maybe it's all in my head. Maybe I'm the only one who loves me. Maybe I'm the only one who can love me. Maybe I'm the only one who will ever love me or treat me as worthy as I am. And then you experience it and you're like, "Hi, dang it, it does exist. I'm not the only one." You know what I mean? But I think you have to learn to live even without experiencing that. I know that it's easy for me to say that because I just recently had my encounter, but it took me a while to get here, and uh, I feel like I feel like I'm doing good. I feel like reminding myself. Sometimes when I get hopeless, I remind myself that sometimes when you're hopeless, you're just running. Sometimes you're just running because I wanted to be like, no one's ever gonna let me. I might as well put up with this shit because nobody else is gonna, you know what I mean? And then I just think about how shitty I would feel, how shitty I would feel about myself, how it would undo the things. And so I just was like, nah, girl, you worthy. You're not gonna get that from everybody. Everybody ain't got the capacity. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? So having those little pep talks with yourself are so important. But at this point, I feel like we're just going to keep recycling. So I'm going to close out. If you have any questions, if you're watching the replay and you have any questions, ask them. Ask them. Beautifully Imbalanced will be back every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Answering the real and raw questions. Really talking, like I said, talking about my healing journey, talking about self worth, talking about boundaries, talking about grieving, not just grieving death, but grieving things that happen in our life that we have to happen. Because listen, I've been in a season of grieving. We might do another grieving episode next Wednesday. Um, but yeah, ask the questions. We'll get into it. We might do a whole video. I might just reply in the comments, or you might get a private message if that's what's needed. If you would prefer to ask questions privately, remember that you can always go on the Instagram, which is Carter Love Network. Yeah, I just had to make sure there was no the. It's Carter Love Network, and it's on Instagram. Anyways, tired a little bit. So that's that. As always, remember that you are worthy always. You are worthy of grace, giving yourself grace. You are worthy of repeating as many times as you need to build that foundation, because each time you repeat, you're building a brick foundation, an unbreakable foundation that will shape what you build on it, right? It's the foundation. So you need a strong one, right? So repetition is important. You see the bricks and they are repetitive. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. You have to keep treating yourself as worthy as you are so you can develop a strong pattern, a strong lifestyle, a strong habit. So you're worthy of unlearning. You're worthy of building that pattern. You're worthy of experiencing your self worth. You are worthy of showing up for yourself. You're worthy of advocating for yourself. You're worthy of loving on yourself. You're worthy of overflowing like a motherfucking waterfall. Until next time, my loves, thank you so much for watching Beautifully Imbalanced. I'll see you next Wednesday.